Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin today with a simple observation. Life comes in seasons, and each season has a purpose. Spring for planting, summer for nurturing, fall for harvesting, and then comes winter. And winter, my friends, is not a season of action. It is a season of decision, a season of reflection, a season where the world grows quiet enough that you can finally hear the sound of your own thoughts. Now, here's what I've discovered. Most people drift through their winters. They wait, they wish, they hope things will improve simply because the calendar turns. But wishing doesn't change your life. Hoping doesn't alter your future. And time will only give you more of what you already have unless you decide to design something different. See, winter is the season when nature steps back, takes a breath, and prepares for what comes next. And I'd suggest you do the same. Winter is the perfect time to step back and ask yourself, where am I? Where am I going? And what on earth am I doing with this life of mine? Because without those questions, you'll simply repeat the same year again and call it progress. But this winter, your winter arc, 2025, can be different. This winter can be the turning point before the turning point, the preparation before the transformation. The 90 days where you sit down with your life, your habits, your goals, your dreams, and say, let's rebuild this. Let's redesign this. Let's aim this life of mine in the direction I truly want to go. Because let me tell you, it's not the new year that changes your life. It's not the clock striking midnight. It's you. It's your decisions. It's your philosophy. It's your willingness to plan, to discipline, to correct course. So think of this winter as a gift, a season of clarity, a quiet moment before the noise of spring begins again. A chapter of your life where you finally take responsibility for the architect's pen and draw the blueprint for the life you intend to build. Remember this, the future doesn't get better by chance. The future gets better by change. And the best time to begin that change is winter. Now let's talk about seasons, because if you misunderstand the seasons of your life, you misunderstand the timing of your own transformation. See, one of the great lessons I learned early on is that life does not respond to emotion, it responds to preparation. And preparation has a season, and its name is winter. Winter is that moment when life asks you, are you ready for something new, or are you simply wishing for it? Winter exposes whether you've been designing your life or drifting through it. Winter is honest. It doesn't flatter you. It doesn't reward excuses. It simply shows you the truth. And most people don't like that part. They get uncomfortable with the stillness. They want the noise, the movement, the busy schedule, because then they don't have to think. But the wise know better. They use the quiet. They use the stillness. They use the cold to sharpen their mind and strengthen their decisions. Because winter is not punishment, winter is opportunity. Winter is the season when you get a chance to say, before I plant anything in spring, I'd better make sure I want what's going to grow. You see, the worst thing in life is not failing to harvest. The worst thing is harvesting something you never wanted in the first place. So winter is where you stop and ask, what have I been chasing? Why am I chasing it? And is it even worth the chase? Some people spend 10 years climbing a ladder only to discover the ladder is leaning against the wrong wall. And winter, if used correctly, prevents that tragedy. Winter gives you time to adjust the ladder before you climb. Winter reminds you that direction is more important than speed. Now here's the part most people miss. Every successful person has learned how to use winter well. They know that if they take winter seriously, if they think, reflect, plan, correct, and design, then spring becomes exciting, summer becomes productive, and fall becomes rewarding. But if they waste winter, the rest of the year becomes a repetition of the last one. That's why this winter arc matters. This is not just 90 days on a calendar. This is your season of decision. This is the moment you step out of the old patterns and say, I will not drift into another year. I will design one. Because if you let winter pass without reflection, without design, without commitment, then you enter spring with confusion, you enter summer with hesitation, and you enter fall with disappointment. But if you use winter properly, if you treat it like the strategic season it is, then you enter 2026, not with hope, but with confidence. And confidence is worth more than hope. So as we move forward, remember, winter is when the future is made. Spring only reveals what winter prepared. And this winter arc, your winter arc, 2025, can be the moment when everything begins to shift. Before we talk about goals, or habits, or daily disciplines, we need to talk about mindset. And not the modern kind that says, just think positive and everything will magically fall into place. No. I want to give you the kind of mindset that builders use, the kind architects use, the kind anyone uses who's serious about creating something that will actually last. Because before a builder picks up a hammer, he studies a blueprint. Before a farmer touches the soil, he studies the weather. Before success takes shape in your life, it must take shape in your mind. And that brings us to the first requirement of your winter arc, mental preparation. See, most people try to change their life by changing their behavior. They rearrange a few habits, set a few resolutions, and then hope something miraculous happens. But behavior without philosophy is like painting a house with a cracked foundation. It looks good for a moment until the first storm arrives. Your next 90 days cannot be built on shaky thinking. They must be built on a strong philosophy, your personal understanding of how success works, how life works, how discipline works, how you work. Jim Rohn taught it this way. Don't start with the marketplace. Start with the mind, because the mind determines the decisions, and the decisions determine the direction, and the direction determines the future. So in this winter arc, before we talk about action, we start with clarity. Let me ask you, what do you want from the next 90 days? Not what someone else wants for you. Not what you think you should want. What do you want? What do you want to fix? What do you want to build? What do you want to become? Most people have never answered those questions honestly. They've answered with convenience, not clarity. They've answered with fear, not vision. They've answered with imitation, copying someone else's life instead of design. But design is the purpose of winter. And you must enter these 90 days with a mindset that says, I am no longer guessing. I am no longer hoping. I am no longer drifting. I am preparing. I am choosing. I am designing. Preparation means you slow down long enough to think. You shut out the noise long enough to hear your own voice. You hold your life up to the light and say, what needs to change and what must stay the same? Preparation means you stop lying to yourself. You stop avoiding the truth. You stop pretending that busyness is progress. Preparation means you take responsibility, because until you take responsibility for your direction, you cannot take control of your destination. So the mindset for these next 90 days is simple. I am going to build my future deliberately, not accidentally, with intention, not confusion, with clarity, not chaos. This is the mental preparation before the plan. This is the foundation before the blueprint. This is the awakening before the action. Because once your mind is prepared, once you know why you're changing and what you're aiming for, then the plan becomes exciting, the discipline becomes meaningful, and the next 90 days become the beginning of a new chapter. Now that we've prepared the mind, let's walk into the first leg of your winter arc, the first 30 days. And I call this stage cleaning up your philosophy. Not cleaning up your house, not cleaning up your schedule, not cleaning up your phone, though those things may come later. No, the first thing you clean up is the way you think. Because here's the truth. Your philosophy is the master program running your entire life. And if the program is faulty, the results will be faulty. If the philosophy is weak, the life will be weak. If the philosophy is confused, the future will be confused. So the first month of your winter arc is not about action. It's about alignment. It's about looking inward and saying, what ideas have I been living by? And where did they even come from? Because you'd be surprised how many of your beliefs aren't actually yours. They came from parents who meant well, teachers who didn't know better, friends who were guessing, society that was confused, and a world that rarely stops to think. Jim Rohn said, most people don't have a life strategy. They have a collection of opinions they never examined. So your first 30 days are dedicated to careful examination. 1. Clean up your thinking. Ask yourself, is this belief helping me or hurting me? Because some ideas don't need to be challenged, they need to be abandoned. If you believe I'm not good enough, you'll start proving it to yourself every day. If you believe success is lucky, you'll never try to design your own. If you believe discipline is painful, you'll avoid the very thing that creates freedom. Your life obeys your philosophy. So these 30 days are about rewriting the rules you live by. 2. Identify your limiting stories. Every life is shaped by a story. The question is, who wrote yours? Some people are living a story of fear. Some live a story of scarcity. Some live a story of guilt or comparison or doubt. Your winter arc begins when you interrupt the story and say, this narrative does not match the person I'm becoming. 3. Strengthen your personal philosophy. This is where reading comes in. This is where journaling comes in. This is where reflection comes in. Because you don't change your philosophy by accident, you change it by exposure. Exposure to better ideas, better mentors, better principles, better examples. Spend the first 30 days reading the kind of books that reshape your thinking. Spend time writing down the ideas that strike you. Spend time asking yourself better questions. 4. Define your values and standards. Most people have wishes, not standards. And wishes won't change your life. Standards will. Ask yourself, what behavior will I no longer tolerate in my life? What habits am I elevating? What decisions will guide my future? When you raise your standards, you raise your results. 5. Rebuild your vision. The first 30 days also require you to see a new future, to picture 2026 not as a mystery, but as a design. Jim Rohn said, you can't hit a target you can't see, and you can't see a target you don't have. So take these 30 days and sketch the life you want. Define the direction. Clarify the intention. Shape the picture of who you are becoming. Because once you know what you want, once the vision is clear, the confusion disappears, the hesitation fades, and decisions become easy. This is why the first month matters so much. Because before you build a new life, you must build a new mind. And if you invest these 30 days in cleaning up your philosophy, then the next 60 days, skill, value, discipline, relationships become not only possible, but inevitable. Now let's move into the second stage of your winter arc, the next 30 days. And this is where the momentum begins to shift. The first 30 days were about philosophy, clearing the mind, sharpening the thinking, understanding what you want and why you want it. But now we step into something equally important, your value. See, one of the great lessons I learned as a young man was this. Your income is not the problem. Your value is the problem. Not your age, not your background, not the economy, your value. Because the marketplace pays for value, not time. The marketplace rewards contribution, not complaints. And if you want more from the marketplace, you don't demand it. You become the kind of person who naturally attracts it. So these second 30 days are about one thing, becoming more valuable to the world. Now, let me tell you something that changed my life. My mentor said, Jim, if you want things to change for you, you've got to change. If you want things to get better, you've got to get better. And he was right. Nothing got better for me until I got better. Nothing improved until I improved. My paycheck didn't increase until my skills increased. My opportunities didn't expand until my value expanded. So let this next month be the month where you upgrade the most important part of the entire success equation. 1. Identify the skill that changes everything. Every life has a leverage skill, a skill that multiplies your effectiveness. It could be communication. It could be leadership. It could be selling, planning, writing, teaching, building, managing, creating. But you must identify the one that will make the biggest difference for your future. Ask yourself, what skill, if improved even slightly, would dramatically change my results? That's your leverage skill. Focus on it relentlessly. 2. Practice daily even for 1 hour. If you spend 1 hour a day sharpening a meaningful skill, in 1 year you'll be ahead of 95% of people. In 2 years you'll be exceptional. In 5 years the world will say, "How did you get so good?" But the secret isn't genius, it's consistency. 1 hour a day on your craft, on your communication, on your ability to think, to solve, to lead, to build. Small daily improvements create massive long-term change. 3, study the masters. Success leaves clues, and you don't need to make every mistake yourself. You can borrow the lessons, borrow the discipline, borrow the thinking of those who have already done it well. Read their books, watch their lectures, listen to their principles, take notes, then apply, because study without action is entertainment, not development. 4, create a value stack. Don't just build one skill, stack them. A good communicator who can also lead is rare. A good leader who understands people is even rarer. A disciplined worker who can communicate, lead, and solve problems, now that person becomes unstoppable. Every new skill you learn magnifies the value of the others. Skills stack, value multiplies. 5, track your growth, not your perfection. Most people quit not because they aren't improving. They quit because they aren't improving fast enough. But value doesn't work that way. Value grows quietly, silently, below the surface. One day you wake up and people say, "You really seem different. You really seem capable. You really seem confident." It didn't happen in a day. It happened daily. So track your growth, celebrate the small wins, because every day you improve your value, you are rewriting your future. 6, connect value to income. Now let me give you a hard truth wrapped in a gentle message. You cannot escape the law of compensation. You get paid for the value you bring. And the more value you bring, the more doors open and the more opportunities appear. Don't chase money. Chase skill. Chase discipline. Chase excellence. Because money follows value. It always has. It always will. So make these second 30 days the month of becoming. Become the person worthy of the goals you set. Become the person who earns their confidence. Become the person who doesn't need to be pushed because they finally learned how to pull themselves. These 30 days will define the next 30 years if you take them seriously. Now we reach the final stage of your winter arc, the last 30 days. And let me tell you, this is where the transformation becomes visible. The first 30 days reshaped your philosophy. The second 30 days increased your value. But these last 30 days, they refine your environment and your character. And let me assure you, your environment will do more to shape your future than almost anything else. Because here's what I've learned. You can have the right plan, the right goals, the right skills, but if you surround yourself with the wrong people, your life will always fall short of its potential. Your circle affects your standards. Your standards affect your habits. And your habits affect your destiny. So these final 30 days are about aligning your environment with the person you are becoming. 1, evaluate your circle honestly. Jim Rohn famously said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." Not the 5 people you admire. Not the 5 people you follow online. The 5 people you actually spend your time with. Now that your philosophy is cleaner and your values stronger, it's time to ask, do the people around me support this new direction? Or do they pull me back into the old one? Some people encourage growth. Others encourage comfort. Some challenge you. Others distract you. Some respect your vision. Others ridicule it. And winter is the season when you must decide which voices stay and which ones you've outgrown. 2, remove toxic influences quietly but firmly. You don't have to make an announcement. You don't need to argue. You don't need to explain. Just step back, redirect your time, reclaim your energy, because your future is too valuable to rent space in your mind to people who don't believe in you, or worse, don't believe in themselves. 3, strengthen high-value relationships. Now, on the other hand, there are people who push you to grow, people who challenge you to think, people who inspire you, motivate you, elevate you, people who reflect the best version of you back to yourself. These people are priceless. Call them more. Learn from them. Study with them. Share your plans with them. Let their strength become your support and let your growth become theirs. Because iron sharpens iron, but only if it makes contact. 4, build your character, the foundation of all influence. Let's talk about character. Skills may open doors, but character determines whether those doors stay open. And character is nothing more than the collection of small disciplines you practice every day. Punctuality, honesty, consistency, reliability, keeping your promises, doing what you said you would do long after the mood you set it in has left you. Character turns ambition into integrity. Character turns goals into habits. Character turns opportunity into legacy. So use these final 30 days to refine the small parts of yourself, the invisible parts, because what is invisible today becomes visible tomorrow. 5, learn the art of influence. Now here's another piece of the puzzle. As you improve your philosophy, your value, your character, something powerful begins to happen. People start paying attention. They listen when you speak. They trust your advice. They seek your company. That's called influence. And influence is one of the greatest assets in the world. Not manipulation, not control. Influence, the ability to inspire others by the example of your life. Influence is earned through consistency. Influence is earned by living the message, not preaching it. Influence is earned when your actions and your words match. So these last 30 days, turn your transformation outward. You're no longer just improving your life, you're shaping your impact on others. 6, become the person your future requires. In these final 30 days, the question is simple. Am I becoming the kind of person who can handle the life I'm asking for? Because a bigger life demands a bigger you. More opportunity demands more discipline. More influence demands more integrity. More success demands more responsibility. So ask yourself, what does my future require of me? Then commit these last 30 days to becoming exactly that, because when your environment matches your goals, when your character matches your ambitions, when your circle matches your mission, you become unstoppable. And that, my friends, is how you complete the final stage of your winter arc. Now that you've strengthened your philosophy, elevated your value, and refined your environment, it's time to introduce one of the most powerful disciplines of success, the weekly review. And let me tell you, this single habit done consistently can change the entire trajectory of your life. Jim Rohn used to say, a life worth living is a life worth recording, not because recording is glamorous, but because recording forces you to notice. And when you notice, you can adjust. And when you adjust, you can advance. Most people don't fail because they lack ambition. Most people fail because they drift. And drifting is subtle. You don't notice it happening until you wake up far from where you intended to be. Just like a boat without direction, just like a life without design, you drift quietly, gradually, unintentionally. That's why we need the weekly review. The weekly review is your anchor. It's the mechanism that pulls you back whenever life begins to tug you off course. It's your chance, once every 7 days, to say, am I still headed where I said I wanted to go? 1. Review your goals. Start with your goals. Not the goals you dreamed of, but the goals you wrote down. Read them every week, because a goal forgotten is a goal abandoned, and a goal abandoned becomes a regret later. Ask yourself, are these still the goals I want? Are they still pulling me? Or have new goals emerged? You don't want to spend months chasing something that no longer matters. 2, review your progress. Next, look honestly at your progress. Don't judge yourself, just look. Where did you follow through? Where did you fall short? Where did you rise above your old standards? Where did you slip back into old habits? And remember, This is not a meeting of punishment. It's a meeting of awareness. Because you can fix what you're aware of, but you can't fix what you're hiding from. 3. Review your schedule. Your schedule reveals what you really value. Not what you say you value, but what you actually value. So look at your calendar for the past week and ask, did I use my time wisely? Did I protect the hours that matter? Did I live according to my priorities? If not, adjust. Because planning without scheduling is just wishful thinking. 4. Identify what's working. Success is not only built by correcting mistakes, it's also built by doubling down on the things that work. So ask yourself, what worked this week? What helped me? What moved me closer to my goals? What energized me? What habits made me feel proud? These are the clues for long-term success. 5. Identify what's not working. And then, just as important, what didn't work? What slowed me down? What distracted me? What drained my energy? What habits undermined my progress? You cannot afford to carry ineffective habits into the next week. Remember, a small correction early can save you from a massive correction later. 6. Plan your adjustments. Now take all of that insight and create a simple plan for the next 7 days. Not a complicated plan, a focused one. 3 priorities, 3 commitments, 3 improvements. That's enough. Write them down. Make them visible. Treat them as a contract with your future self. 7. Protect this ritual. Let me repeat this. Protect your weekly review like your life depends on it, because it does. Your future depends on these small, steady adjustments. Your progress depends on these weekly recalibrations. Your winter arc depends on your willingness to be honest, consistent, and intentional. Because here's the truth. People don't drift in a single day. People drift because they stop checking their compass. But not you. Not this winter. Not in 2025. You are going to check the map every 7 days and adjust before the drift becomes a disaster. And with each week of clarity, your confidence grows. With each correction, your direction sharpens. With each adjustment, your future accelerates. This is the quiet discipline that separates the dreamers from the doers. Now we arrive at one of the greatest principles of success, and I hope you'll write this down. The big life you want is always built on the small disciplines you practice. Not the big moments. Those are rare. Not the big opportunities. They don't come every day. But the small, steady, invisible disciplines that most people overlook. Jim Rohn said it beautifully. Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Not once a month. Not once a week. Every day. Because daily disciplines compound quietly. And quiet compounding creates loud results. So in this final stretch of your winter arc, I want to give you a daily framework, a simple rhythm that anchors your morning, guides your afternoon, and closes your evening with intention. These practices take minutes, not hours. But if you follow them, they will alter the direction of your entire life. 1. Begin your day with 10 minutes of reflection. Before you let the world rush in, before the messages start, before the noise begins, before you step into the demands of the day, take a few minutes to think. Sit with yourself and ask, what matters today? What must get done? Who am I becoming? What does my future require of me? 10 minutes of reflection in the morning can save you from 10 hours of confusion later. Your mind is like a steering wheel. If you touch it first thing, the day follows your direction. If you ignore it, the day drives you. 2. Read for 20 minutes a day. 20 minutes. That's all. You don't need to read a book a week or an entire library a year. Just 20 minutes of good ideas. Consistently. Because reading exposes you to better thinking. And better thinking leads to better choices. And better choices lead to better results. Rohn said, miss a meal if you must, but don't miss your reading. Why? Because books are mentors. Books are shortcuts. Books let you borrow a lifetime of wisdom for the price of a few minutes. And 20 minutes a day will make you wiser than most and far more prepared than many. 3, write your priorities on paper. Every morning, write down your top 3 priorities. Not 10, not 20, just 3. 3 things that move the needle. 3 things that support your winter arc. 3 things that align with your 2026 vision. Because the moment you write something down, you turn a wish into a task, a hope into a directive, a dream into a responsibility. Paper, my friends, is magical. It holds you accountable. 4, do one action that builds your future. Just one. One action that improves your health, your skill, your income, your character, or your relationships. One step forward every day. And in 90 days, you are 90 steps ahead. That's how progress works. Not by leaps, but by daily inches. And here's the secret. Those inches add up faster than you think. 5, strengthen one discipline daily. Each day, choose a small discipline to sharpen. Maybe it's waking up when the alarm rings. Maybe it's finishing your tasks before relaxing. Maybe it's speaking with more kindness, or practicing patience, or following through on your commitments. Discipline is the muscle of character, and muscles grow through repeated use. Every daily discipline becomes a brick in the foundation of who you are becoming. 6, end your day with an evening review. This is the final step of the daily cycle, and it is what turns action into wisdom. Before bed, ask yourself quietly, what worked today? What didn't? What will I improve tomorrow? 15 minutes. That's all it takes. But those 15 minutes turn your day into a lesson and your life into a series of meaningful improvements. 7, repeat this routine daily, not perfectly. Now let me remind you, the goal is not perfection. The goal is consistency. If you miss a day, return the next day. If you fall off, get back on. If you stumble, stand up again. Because success is not about never falling. It is about learning how to rise with greater wisdom each time. These small disciplines, reflection, reading, writing, action, practice, review, may seem simple. But simple is powerful. Simple is sustainable. Simple is what compounds. And over time, these daily practices transform the winter arc from a season of effort into a season of rebirth. This is how you change a life. One decision at a time. One action at a time. One day at a time. Now we've reached the end of this winter arc blueprint. But let me tell you something very important. The end of a blueprint is the beginning of a life. Information is not transformation. A plan is not progress. A vision is not victory. Not until you act. And action begins the moment you say, I will no longer leave my future to chance. You see, the next year is coming whether you prepare for it or not. 2026 will arrive right on schedule. It won't be late. It won't be early. It won't wait for you. It will simply show up. And the real question is, will you show up for it? Most people walk into the future backwards, dragging the past behind them, clinging to old habits, hoping new results will appear, but it doesn't work that way. The future is not a lottery. The future is a construction project. And you, my friend, are the architect. This is why winter matters so much. Winter is the season where life invites you quietly but firmly to take responsibility for what comes next. Not next month, not next year, next day, next decision, next discipline. Because no matter how big your dreams are, they cannot outrun your habits. And no matter how strong your intentions are, they cannot overcome the absence of a plan. Jim Rohn said, no plan means no progress. But he also said, a plan you follow becomes a life you can be proud of. So as we conclude this winter arc, let me leave you with a simple truth. You already have everything you need to begin. You have the time. You have the opportunity. You have the ability. You have the wisdom. What you need now is the decision. Decide to think differently. Decide to design your life. Decide to build your value. Decide to raise your standards. Decide to discipline your habits. Decide to review your progress. Decide to protect your environment. Decide to become the person your future requires. Because when you decide, truly decide, the world begins to shift around you. Not because the world changed, but because you did. So let this winter, this quiet season, this moment right here, be the moment where everything turns. Let it be your winter arc 2025. The season where confusion becomes clarity, where drifting becomes direction, where hope becomes discipline, where potential becomes progress, and where dreams begin their journey toward reality. Because the truth is simple. You do not get a better life by waiting. You get a better life by designing. Design it this winter. Build it in spring. Strengthen it in summer. Harvest it in fall. And when 2026 arrives, you won't just welcome a new year. You'll welcome a new you.